Rejection is a universal experience. We've all experienced it at some point in our lives, whether it's at work, in relationships, or in our own aspirations. And if you're watching this video right now, you're probably dealing with the pain of a recent rejection. Maybe it was a rejection from your inner circle, from someone you loved or trusted. Or maybe it was a professional rejection where you weren't recognized as you expected. Maybe you're feeling unable to move forward, trapped in the emotions that arise when doors close. It's completely understandable to feel this way. The pain of rejection can feel unbearable, and in moments of emotional fragility, it's easy to let it consume you. But the good news is that, according to the principles of Stoicism, we can learn to use rejection to our advantage. Stoicism, a practical philosophy that dates back to ancient Greece and Rome, teaches that rejection is not an insurmountable obstacle, but an opportunity for personal growth and emotional empowerment. In this video, we will explore how you can transform the pain of rejection into a tool for self-knowledge, resilience, and, most importantly, overcoming. We will see how you can stop seeing rejection as a reflection of your failures and start seeing it as a springboard for your development. Stoicism offers a deeper look into human reactions, allowing us to accept, understand, and above all, learn from these difficult moments. In the end, you will feel stronger and prepared to face whatever life throws your way, with serenity and courage. Before we start, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos, okay? Rejection is something that everyone faces, without exception. Whether it's a closed door at a job, unrequited love, or a friendship that falls apart, we've all been there. And when it happens, it's easy to think that we're the only ones suffering, that we've been wronged, or that there's something wrong with us. But the truth is that rejection is part of human life. It's a universal experience, a stage that everyone has to go through at some point. However, by understanding Stoic philosophy, we can begin to change our relationship with rejection. Stoics like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius taught us that how we react to events that happen to us is far more important than the events themselves. This brings us to the first big lesson. We can't control how others treat us, but we can control our reaction to it. By internalizing this teaching, we begin to see rejection not as a personal attack, but as something that everyone faces. It doesn't define who we are. It just happens, and what really matters is what we do about it. Accepting that rejection is inevitable can, paradoxically, be the first step toward freeing ourselves from the pain it causes. By seeing rejection as part of the human experience, we are able to depersonalize the pain and open ourselves to the opportunity it offers, the chance to grow. Instead of letting rejection make us feel small, we can learn to use it as a tool for growth. What you learn from rejection is often more valuable than what you gain from acceptance. When something doesn't go as planned, it gives us a chance to reflect on what went wrong, what we can improve, and how we can grow stronger. This is one of the greatest lessons of Stoicism. All hardships, including rejection, are disguised opportunities for self-development. For example, a job application that is rejected can be a chance to reflect on how you presented yourself, how you can improve your skills, and most importantly, how you can better prepare yourself for the next opportunity. Instead of dwelling on the pain of rejection, you can choose to see this moment as a reflection of something that still needs to be worked on within yourself. This can be hard, of course. The pain of rejection is real, and no one is saying it's easy to ignore. But this is where the power of Stoicism comes in. When you decide to use rejection as a springboard, you're not ignoring the pain. You're simply shifting your focus. Instead of focusing on what's been lost, you start looking at what can be learned and how you can grow from it. Rejection, then, becomes an opportunity for evolution. Each rejection is a chance to refine our skills, develop our resilience, and better understand who we are. Stoicism teaches us that we should detach ourselves from external outcomes. In other words, Stoics believe that our happiness should not depend on what happens outside of us, but rather on how we respond to it. And this applies directly to rejection. When we are rejected, we often feel defeated because our outcomes, whether approval, success, or acceptance from others, have been thwarted. But the Stoics suggest something revolutionary. We shouldn't get hung up on these outcomes. Instead, we should focus on what is within our control, our actions, attitudes, and reactions. This means that even in the face of rejection, you can decide how to respond. You can learn, you can improve, you can move on. What matters is not the outcome of the situation, but how you choose to respond to it. Detachment from outcomes is a powerful skill, especially for those dealing with anxiety and the constant pressure to succeed. When you stop focusing on what you can't control, you find a peace that is independent of external factors. This is one of the greatest legacies of Stoicism, the ability to be happy and peaceful regardless of external events. Imagine that you put all your effort into something and still get rejected. The pain is real, but by understanding that the outcome of your action is not in your control, you free yourself from the emotional burden. You can control the effort, but not the outcome, and that is enough. This does not mean that you should abandon your goals or stop putting in the effort. Quite the opposite. It means that you should act with the best intentions and let the rest flow. When we're rejected, it's easy to become consumed by the feeling of failure, but as the Stoics teach us, this is precisely the opportunity to turn that pain into fuel. Rejection itself doesn't have the power to bring us down unless we allow it to. And if we can change our view of it, we can turn it into something powerful: motivation. This is because when we are rejected, we are faced with a choice. Either we give in to sadness and defeat, or we use the pain as strength to move forward with greater determination. Stoicism teaches us to be mindful of our reactions and emotions. Instead of seeing rejection as an end, we can see it as a new beginning, as a chance to prove to ourselves that we are capable of bouncing back. Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors in history, was rejected and failed countless times, but he used each of those moments as fuel to continue his quest for the light bulb. He said that each failure was just a way to learn something new, and that success would eventually come if he kept persisting. This Stoic view of transforming pain into motivation is crucial to dealing with rejection productively. True strength doesn't come from never being rejected, but from knowing how to use rejection as an impetus to keep going, improving with each step. When you turn rejection into motivation, every no you receive becomes one step closer to your goal. One of the most valuable lessons of Stoicism is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. When we face rejection, we are often consumed by frustration because we are trying to control something we cannot: the opinions and decisions of others. However, Stoicism teaches us that the only thing we can control is our reaction to these situations. Imagine you put your all into a project, a job interview, or a relationship. You've dedicated yourself, given it your all, and yet you've still been rejected. It's easy to feel helpless. But Stoic philosophy reminds us that while we can't control what other people think or decide, we can always control how we react to those events. Control is a powerful skill, and it starts with realizing that rejection doesn't define who you are. It doesn't matter what others think of you, because what matters is what you think of yourself. By focusing on controlling your actions and responses, you free yourself from the immediate emotional reaction and begin to act with more clarity and purpose. For example, in a moment of rejection, instead of blaming others or wallowing in self-criticism, you can choose to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I improve? What's the next step? By maintaining control over your reactions, you can turn a moment of pain into an opportunity for growth. One of the biggest sources of emotional suffering is our constant pursuit of perfection. We are taught from an early age to want to be the best at everything, to always achieve success and to avoid failure. However, the reality is that we are all imperfect, and rejection often arises precisely because we, as human beings, are fallible. Stoicism teaches us to accept our own imperfection. Instead of fighting it, we should learn to embrace it and use it as part of our process of self-discovery. By accepting that we are imperfect, We free ourselves from the pressure to constantly succeed and begin to see each failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, reminds us that it is precisely in accepting our flaws that we find true freedom. When we do not seek perfection, but rather continuous improvement, rejection becomes a learning experience, not a sentence. So when you face rejection, instead of blaming yourself or feeling defeated, remember that you are human. Your imperfections are natural, and they do not diminish your value. Accepting this is the first step towards a more peaceful life that is less impacted by the pain of rejection. Rejection has the power to undermine our self-esteem, especially when it happens in important areas like work or personal relationships. Feeling like we're not good enough to please, convince, or connect can make us question our worth. However, the Stoics teach us that our self-worth shouldn't depend on external approval, but rather on our own sense of who we are. The key to overcoming the self-esteem slump after rejection is to focus on what you can control, your actions and your commitment to yourself. Instead of letting rejection define who you are, you can choose to view the experience as an opportunity to reaffirm your self-worth and move forward with confidence. This doesn't mean ignoring the pain or pretending it wasn't painful, but rather understanding that rejection doesn't define who you are. You can continue to grow, learn, and evolve regardless of others' opinions. If rejection has shaken your self-esteem, try asking yourself, what can I do differently? How can I grow from this? This kind of reflection can help you regain emotional balance and restore your self-confidence. The practice of negative visualization is one of the pillars of Stoic philosophy. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, teaches us that by visualizing the worst possible situations, we can mentally prepare ourselves to deal with them in a calmer and more serene way. This includes, of course, rejection. By imagining the possible rejections we may face, whether in relationships, jobs, or projects, we are not being pessimistic, but rather preparing ourselves for the inevitable. By doing this, we can reduce the emotional impact of rejection when it happens. The fear of rejection is often worse than the rejection itself, and negative visualization can help lessen this fear. This practice also teaches us to appreciate what we have more deeply, since by visualizing the loss, we are able to value what is truly important. When we are rejected, we already know that the situation may be difficult, but we also know that we are capable of dealing with it, because we have already imagined it in our mind. Resilience is one of the most valuable qualities we can cultivate, especially when dealing with rejection. However, it is not something we are born with, but rather a skill that is developed over time, with practice, and often through adversity. Stoicism, with its focus on accepting the uncontrollable and improving what we can, teaches us to use rejection as a means of strengthening our resilience. When we are rejected, our initial tendency is to close ourselves off, feel afraid, or even give up. However, true resilience is not born when things are going well, but rather when we face challenges. Every rejection, every no we receive, is a chance to test our inner strength. Resilience is the ability to get back up after a fall, and rejection serves exactly that purpose, to teach us to get up and keep going. The Stoics believe that adversity is the training ground of the soul. To them, pain is not an enemy, but a teacher who teaches, trains, and over time strengthens you. When you are rejected, it may feel like you are being defeated, but from a Stoic perspective, you are simply being molded into a stronger version of yourself. Every negative experience is, in fact, a chance to be stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the future. Personal relationships are one of the areas where rejection can cause the most emotional wounds. Unrequited love, abandonment, or even a friendship that ends can be deeply painful experiences. However, Stoic philosophers have a unique approach to these situations. The practice of detachment and focusing on one's own inner peace. In Stoicism, there is a deep understanding that we cannot control the feelings and actions of others. However, we can control our own reactions. When someone rejects us in a relationship, Instead of reacting with anger, frustration, or excessive sadness, we can choose serenity. The Stoics believe that our happiness does not depend on others, but rather on our ability to maintain inner balance, regardless of external circumstances. For example, when you are rejected by someone you love, Stoicism suggests that you focus on what you can control, your own feelings and actions. This doesn't mean that you should deny your pain or ignore the emotion that arises, but rather that by responding calmly, you strengthen yourself emotionally and preserve your inner peace. Rejection is not the end of everything, and in fact, it is an opportunity to focus on your own well-being and growth. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means learning to value yourself regardless of how others see you. When we face rejection, we are often too hard on ourselves. Being overly self-critical can make us believe that rejection is a reflection of our flaws or imperfections. However, the Stoics teach us that instead of punishing ourselves, it is essential to practice self-compassion, that is, treating ourselves with the same understanding and care that we offer others. Self-compassion does not mean conforming or settling. It is not an invitation to passivity or weakness. Rather, self-compassion is the ability to acknowledge our failures and struggles without allowing ourselves to be consumed by them. When rejected, self-compassion allows us to see that everyone, even the greatest historical figures and sages, have faced struggles. That does not make them any less valuable or capable. Practicing self-compassion involves allowing yourself to feel the pain of rejection, but not wallowing in it. You can acknowledge the pain and still move forward with hope and determination. Instead of beating yourself up, you can look at the situation with an open mind. Ask yourself what you can learn, and then give yourself permission to keep trying. Stoicism teaches us that hardship, including rejection, is a test of character. Rather than seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance, we can choose to view rejection as an opportunity to reveal and strengthen our character. What we do in the face of adversity reflects who we truly are, and how we deal with rejection can be a reflection of our resilience, wisdom, and virtue. Stoic philosophers believe that true greatness lies not in success or the approval of others, but in how one responds to challenges. Rather than letting yourself be discouraged, true strength is shown when you choose to act with dignity and respect, even when rejected. Every rejection is a chance to show yourself and others that you have the character to overcome hardship. When you experience rejection, you can choose to react with anger, resentment, or bitterness, but the real test is how you choose to respond. True virtue lies in being able to remain steadfast, calm, and at peace, even in the face of external difficulties. Stoicism also teaches us to reflect deeply on our emotions and reactions, especially in difficult moments like rejection. Rejection offers us a chance to reflect on our beliefs, expectations, and values. By pausing and questioning why rejection affected us so deeply, we can begin to better understand our own desires and limitations. Every rejection is an opportunity to ask yourself, what really matters to me? Or, am I seeking external approval too much instead of trusting my own internal validation? By reflecting on these aspects, rejection becomes a tool for self-knowledge. This process of reflection is fundamental to personal development and philosophical practice. When we take time to reflect on events and their lessons, we begin to make decisions that are more aligned with our values and what is truly important to us. Persistence in the face of rejection is one of the most powerful skills we can develop. The ability to keep going despite hardships and failures is what separates those who give up from those who achieve their goals. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of persistence. The Stoics believe that the virtue of perseverance, or constancy, is one of the essential qualities for those seeking true happiness. When we are rejected, the easiest thing to do is to give up. However, by moving forward with each failure, with courage and determination, we show that we are stronger than the obstacles that come our way. Persistence is the true test of character. Rejection, therefore, becomes an opportunity to demonstrate our strength and our commitment to our goals, knowing that, in the end, true success comes from never giving up, no matter how many times we are rejected. Finally, rejection is one of the most powerful ways to get to know ourselves. Every time we are rejected, we have the opportunity to look inside ourselves and reflect on what we really want and who we really are. Deep self-knowledge comes from reflecting on the adversities we have faced, and rejection is one of the main sources of this reflection. Stoicism teaches us to use difficult experiences, such as rejection, to deepen our understanding of ourselves and our journey. With each rejection, we can grow stronger, wiser, and more aligned with our values and purpose. The key is to not see rejection as a negative thing, but as a fundamental part of the process of self-discovery. Each time we overcome rejection, we come closer to who we really are. When we face rejection, it's natural for our world to feel like it's falling apart for a moment. The pain of disapproval, the discomfort of exclusion, or the simple fact of not being chosen can make us doubt our abilities, our worth, and even our destiny. However, what truly defines the impact of rejection on our lives is not the experience itself, but how we choose to respond to it. Throughout this video, we explore how rejection, far from being a final obstacle, can be a powerful ally in the process of self-discovery, personal growth, and emotional empowerment. Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on maintaining control over what we can control, teaches us a valuable lesson. The suffering caused by rejection is not an inevitable consequence, but a choice in our response to it. And, most importantly, rejection offers the opportunity to shape our character, increase our resilience, and get closer to our true essence. It's important to remember that by practicing the teachings of the Stoics, we can reverse the narrative that rejection tries to impose on us. We don't need to see rejection as a reflection of our inadequacy, but as a chance to learn, to improve ourselves, and, above all, to strengthen our confidence in who we really are. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius showed us that when faced with something that is beyond our control, whether it's rejection from another person, the loss of an opportunity, or the failure of a plan, our response is the only thing that matters to us. What other people think of us, their decisions about our lives, their rejections, do not define our worth, but how we choose to deal with them. True wisdom and strength come from the ability to face rejection without being overwhelmed by it, to learn from what is offered to us, and above all, to use this moment as a lever for a stronger, more conscious life. Remember, being rejected does not mean you have failed. It just means that the journey continues, and that by moving forward, you are closer to achieving your goals than you have ever been. In Stoicism, detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means freeing yourself from the constant need for external validation. When you let go of the idea that other people's approval is essential to your happiness, you create an internal space where rejection no longer has power over you. This doesn't mean you should become cold or unfeeling. On the contrary, you can continue to care deeply about what you do and the people around you, but without allowing someone else's no to have the power to undermine your sense of worth and purpose. Detachment is an invitation to emotional freedom. It reminds us that true peace comes from within and does not depend on the acceptance or approval of others. When you understand this, you realize that rejection no longer shakes your foundations, because your peace and self-worth are built on something more solid. Your understanding of who you really are and what you can control in your life. Every rejection, no matter how painful, carries with it an opportunity for growth. Rejection is not just an ending, but a new beginning. It is a chance to look within yourself, to reflect on what could be improved, and at the same time, to reaffirm your commitment to your goals. By applying Stoic principles, you can use rejection as a stepping stone to becoming stronger, more resilient, and wiser. Life is not just about victories and achievements. In reality, It is the difficulties and challenges that teach us the most. Every time we are rejected, we have the opportunity to test our resilience, to cultivate our patience, and, perhaps most importantly, to learn not to depend on anything external for our happiness. Rejections are like mirrors that reflect who we really are, not because of what others say about us, but because of who we choose to be after the experience. You can let rejection bring you down, or you can use it as a turning point in your journey of self-discovery and evolution. One of the greatest legacies of the Stoic philosophers is their emphasis on persistence. The idea that no matter what the hardships, we should keep moving forward, improving ourselves and working toward our goals. As the great Stoics taught us, no matter how many times rejection comes your way, what really counts is your willingness to persist. Persistence turns each rejection into a higher rung on the ladder of success. And remember, we are not talking about persisting with anger or resentment, but about persisting with wisdom and serenity, as if we knew that every setback was an opportunity to learn. This is exactly where Stoic philosophy connects with the daily practice of life. By persisting with calm and determination, rejection becomes less painful and more of a learning experience. With every rejection, it's crucial that we take time to reflect on our experience calmly and honestly. This reflection should be accompanied by self-compassion, the practice of treating ourselves with kindness and understanding. Rejection often leads us to be overly self-critical, but the Stoics teach us that the key to growth lies in accepting failures and mistakes with an open mind, recognizing that perfection is not the goal, but constant improvement. By accepting rejection with equanimity and self-compassion, you are setting yourself on the path to self-mastery. It's not about being immune to pain or disappointment, but about managing these emotions in a healthy way without letting them overwhelm us. True freedom comes when we can accept our imperfections, acknowledge our failures, and move forward with the confidence that with each step, we are becoming better. Stoic philosophy is not a distant or abstract theory, but a guide to living life with greater clarity, purpose, and inner peace. Rejection, like all obstacles in our lives, is an opportunity to apply the Stoic lessons in practical and effective ways. The more you practice the principles of Stoicism, such as acceptance, resilience, reflection, and detachment, the easier it becomes to transform rejection from an obstacle into a tool for growth. So when you face your next rejection, remember, it's not about being rejected. It's about how you choose to react to it. Every rejection is a chance to grow stronger, to refine your vision of yourself, and to continue the journey of self-discovery and personal growth. If you were touched by the ideas we shared here, and if you want to apply the teachings of Stoicism in your life, be sure to subscribe to the channel and continue following the content we have prepared for you. Stoicism is not just a philosophy for times of adversity, but a daily practice of how to live with more serenity and balance. Rejection, as painful as it may be, can be the starting point for a deeper, more meaningful journey towards self-mastery. Don't let the pain or fear of disapproval consume you. Instead, use rejection as a tool to transform your life into a richer, stronger, and wiser place. The journey is yours, and the path to true freedom begins when you decide to live based on what you can control, your reaction and attitude toward life's difficulties. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for reflecting, and for continuing on your journey of growth. See you in the next video.